Allie, welcome to our live stream today. I'll introduce you just by what I know of you, but I would love for you to fill in the gaps that's there too. But I invited Allie today to talk to us about remote work. I'm always seeing these really fun marketing posts for her business on LinkedIn about how you can be a successful and productive remote worker. So we're going to talk more about that today. But Allie, can you give us a little bit more of an introduction about who you are, what you do, and that kind of thing?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a remote work productivity consultant, at least that's what I call myself right now. And the focus that I have with teams and individuals, I coach individuals and I also do consulting for companies, is the focus is on the individual to help them get into work, get their stuff done, stay focused, avoid distractions, manage their time, structure their day in a way that helps them to really, as I say, get shit done. And at the end of the day, when they unplug, feel accomplished and actually have more time to enjoy hobbies, time with family. If they're traveling, explore the new place that they're in. So it's really about just getting shit done, enjoying your best life. And so I started doing this after losing my job during the pandemic, the beginning of the pandemic. So I'd been working remotely for a couple of years and really enjoyed it, really took advantage of the freedom and flexibility and became a digital nomad, kind of fell into it. I didn't know what it was in the beginning and just really enjoyed it, enjoyed the life that I had designed for my life, for myself. And yeah, when I lost my job because of the pandemic, I saw so many people forced to transition, and it's already a difficult transition when you want to be remote, right? There's still lessons to learn and all of that, but to be forced to it is even more difficult. And so I knew I could help people and I knew I could help companies. And so that's what I do now.
Awesome. Thanks, Allie. Yeah, I think your business model is really interesting for yourself and your business there. And I think it's so relatable. And like I said, bringing you on today for our Kensington live stream, I manage the ergonomic category for Kensington. And I think there's such a marriage between remote work and the tools that you use and just the productivity that's required for you to be a successful remote worker. So even though we're not going to talk, hardcore ergonomics or anything like that today, I think there's certainly some lessons and some thoughts we could get from you for people that might be considering going remote, or maybe they've been struggling with it during this whole time that they've been remote. And I can tell you, I wish I was remote today. I am a remote worker, but I want to be a remote worker. I looked at the weather this morning, and I am in the Midwest in the U.S., and it is freezing cold. It's sunny, but the weather app on my phone said it was -9 Fahrenheit, which is -23 degrees Celsius. So I will be staying inside today. But tell us a little bit about when you're choosing a place to work, because I know you kind of have this model that you might stay someplace for a short time or a long time. Mm-hmm. What do you think about when you're picking that remote location?
Gosh, it's changed over. I've been doing this for almost 5 years now, and it's changed a lot in how I choose my locations, especially since the pandemic and how it's changed travel and in the world. I don't like cold weather. So that's usually, looking at the temperature, and if it's the rainy season, because a lot of the places that I go to that don't really experience a winter, their seasons are rainy and not rainy. And so looking to see if it's the rainy season or not. Strong Wi-Fi, at this point, fiber, I'm in Mexico, and fiber, can definitely be found where I'm at now. That was one of the, I wanted a beach town with a little bit of infrastructure and fiber internet and a beautiful view. You might be able to see that's what I get to see.
That's really convenient that you have it in a, kind of sort of straight up view during your calls, but you're no, really, I'm working, but I get to look at this all day.
Yeah. I actually had a stand-up desk made because I don't like sitting down and working. Sometimes I do. And so I have a stool chair that he made as well, but I had it made specifically for my height. And, so before, though, I was sitting at the dining room table, and so everyone got to see kind of the view behind me, and I was just looking at the kitchen all day. Now I have my stand-up desk. It's movable, so I get the beautiful view, and everyone else just gets the reflection. But as a digital nomad, like I don't typically have a stand-up desk made for me in every location that I've been. I've had it made one other location, and that was after the pandemic began, and I knew I was going to be there for a while. And so I've kind of say I've become a little bit of I've transitioned from digital nomad to digital slow mad. I've slowed it down. I have my car here in Mexico now, and so I'm actually been working on getting my temporary residency here in Mexico. And I'm starting to accumulate a few things, like the stand-up desk that I'll put in my car and take with me. So
nice. Yeah. And so when you're staying someplace for a period of time like that, are you typically meeting a lot more people and just experiencing whatever that culture and lifestyle is of the area, or are you just at your desk all day with the scenery out the window?
It depends. Looking back, it really depends on the season of life that I'm in. There was definitely times, especially early on, and being the digital nomad, like bouncing around every couple of weeks to every couple of months, meeting people, going to co-working spaces to meet other digital nomads, hanging out with locals and learning the local scene. I would say, the pandemic has definitely changed things. I'm not near as social, but I've really started to embrace and enjoy kind of being by myself a little bit more and focusing on myself and giving myself what I need and what I want. And so it is why I've picked places like this with this big, beautiful view so I can be connected to nature. But yeah, I meet people regardless. It just depends on how social I want to be. So here I've met a few people. We go and do weekend adventures. We'll have dinner. We'll go and meet for dinner at night and things like that. And there's different ways to meet people. And I know that's a really big struggle for a lot of remote workers when they first become remote. And it takes some time to kind of figure out, how to deal with the loneliness aspect when you're working alone. And, it's one thing to work from home where you're consistent, your roots are planted and all of that, and to be lonely, but you can still be a part of sporting leagues, community events, charities, volunteer work, they have a Chamber of Commerce there in the U.S. and different things like that to connect with people outside of the walls of your home. But when you're a digital nomad or living this lifestyle, and you don't even have to be a full-on digital nomad, you could be settled and then maybe a couple months out of the year you go work somewhere else. It's, you're going to a new place. It's like starting over every single time. And so it's really important to make it a priority to connect with people even before you go. And, Facebook groups are actually a great way to do that. They have groups specifically, people have created groups for those locations, whether it be digital nomads in Medellin or, immigrants and expats, foreigners in Oaxaca City, whatever, right? And you can connect before even getting there. You can learn about the location. And so that I really encourage, be very intentional. If you feel lonely, reach out. There are other people that likely feel the same, and they're going to appreciate the connection that you make with them.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I think one thing that comes up, even for myself being a remote worker, not having the lovely reflection in my glass like you do today, people wonder, do you actually have a schedule? Do you work all day? Or what does your typical day look like when you are in these types of locations? I assume that you still have to get your stuff done, as you mentioned. But I know people will come into my life and say, oh, you work from home. You must have so much time to do laundry and cook these gourmet meals. And, your house must be spotless, which it's definitely not. But similar but different kind of situations when you're on the road. But talk to me a little bit about what your typical day would look like in a different location than your actual 100% home.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I plan my day. I feel like for me, having routine and a structure to my day allows me to have freedom, to embrace the freedom, because I know what's coming and I know what I need to do on my plate today. It allows me to be proactive and also make the choice if something comes up and I want to say, okay, you know what? This opportunity came up today for me to have a long lunch with a friend. I'm already aware of what's going to happen today and how it's going to affect my week because I have my schedule and I have, my routine. So, it is a schedule. My schedule doesn't control me. I control it. And so I have my morning routine. I get up, I do my morning stuff. I dive into work. I always have a morning break. I have my break, dive into some more work, and then a lunch. And lunch, it varies from day to day. Like yesterday, I took a really long lunch and met up with a friend, and then, come back. For me, my afternoon is when I do my deep dive work. So I've scheduled my deep dive work in the afternoon, and then enjoy an evening out. It's pretty normal. I feel like, I think because, so now I'm a self-employed remote worker. Before I was an employed remote worker.
Right.
And we still had the freedom and flexibility to work whenever it made sense for us. But we had, team that it was an international team. So, it made sense to do a lot of the collaborating in the morning, and then I could focus in the afternoon. So I think I've just become accustomed to that as well. And even before that, kind of had the 9 to 5. So I kind of just continued on with that, but still embracing the freedom and flexibility. And so I would say for people who want to try out this lifestyle, it's really funny. I actually had a friend who he realized he'd been self-employed, but until he met me, he didn't realize how much freedom he actually had. And so he met me and he's like, wow, I can do this. I can do what you're doing. I was like, well, then come on down to Colombia with me. So he's like, okay. And he tells me he books 2 weeks and he says he's going to work while he's there. I was like, you just booked a vacation. You didn't book, a trial run of this lifestyle. And he's like, well, we'll just see how it goes. And yeah, he got there. He didn't want to work because there was so much to do. And so that's a hard transition for a lot of people. And, it's really hard to test it out if you're just going to do just 2 weeks. You really do need to do a couple months because you are going to spend a decent amount of time working and you're not going to be boring. So, your time is limited. If you give yourself only like 2 weekends, that's nothing.
Yeah, for sure. And I know, as people do travel to different locations, I saw a trending news article. I don't know if you saw it yesterday, go across LinkedIn, but for Airbnb, I guess 1 out of every 3 listings for Airbnb or bookings for Airbnb is more than 2 weeks long. And so more people, no surprise to you, are going to that digital nomad, taking advantage of this more flexible work style, which I think the more people that do it, the more there is the need for your type of service of really trying to make people excel at that type of worker. And then also for our products from Kensington too, really helping them get to that productive piece of toolkit that they may be missing when they book that really cool beachside condo that has literally a table with 4 legs. So it's all trying to figure out what works best for those individuals. But I love personally following your journey on LinkedIn. I think, if I had the capability to be remote, which we can talk a little bit about that it's not for everyone. From what I understand, it has to work with what your job has and what your family unit might look like and that type of thing. Sometimes it's easier. But I mean, do you feel that anybody can become a remote worker, or do you feel like it depends on what type of job they have and are there certain characteristics that you think make like the prime candidate for a remote worker?
Yeah, I like you mentioned. I mean, the role itself the company needs to allow it. Of course, however, I have met many people here in Mexico who keep it hush hush, and even if it's hot outside, like during the winter last year, they would put a sweatshirt on while on a call to make the people think that they're still like back home in like Wisconsin or whatever, but yet they have a tan. Their skin is so it's been really funny to see how people. So I do think that if companies, I know that there's tax restrictions and different things that go into play there, but really embrace the freedom and flexibility and support your team who want to live that life, because you're going to retain them. These are people that I also know that they have had conversations that if they are called back to the office, or if they found out that they're in Mexico and they're not allowed to be there, they will quit. Like it's, this is it. Like, this is the lifestyle I want now. So I think for companies, do your best to be flexible. For individuals, find out first, if you don't have the remote job or you are moving, specifically ask, what does remote look like? Because even I say remote worker, and the way I see it is, working from home is a remote worker. Me working remotely is a remote worker, digital nomad, remote worker, freelancer, remote worker. But, listening to you, I think there is that, work from home and remote worker, right? That distinction. Some people don't identify with remote worker, they identify with work from home. And so making sure that you're on the same page, all right? Time zones, you want to consider time zones. There was a time where I was working with clients in Australia. I came back to the U.S. as I was wrapping them up. So I had to work it in the evenings a few times. Was going back to Bali and planned on continuing to have clients in Australia, but that didn't line up with what management wanted for my future. And so I was working in the middle of the night, and it only took me 3 weeks of that. And I'm like, okay, I'm leaving Bali. So I think there's a lot to consider. Obviously, having a family, but I've also known and seen families who are embracing the digital nomad lifestyle, or they have a home base and a couple months out of the year they go to another country or something else. So it's possible. It really just comes down to it's being able to embrace the freedom and flexibility for the life that you want, right? And getting to define that. So
for sure. Well, I will say if we do have anybody that has questions that is listening in today, I've seen a couple comments come through just saying, hi, love the conversation that's going. But if anyone does have questions, feel free to drop them in the comments area, and we'll certainly get to those while we still have Allie live. But I do want to ask you, Allie, we've talked about going into that lifestyle. You mentioned a little bit about the struggles that you might have as a remote worker, but can you kind of give us maybe like the top 2 or 3 struggles that either for yourself or as you're talking to people in your business, what they see becoming that actual remote worker?
Yeah. So now when you say becoming a remote, I want to make sure we're on the same page,
yeah.
Right? To becoming a independent, location independent digital nomad lifestyle remote worker, or just work from home, remote working, not in the office?
I would say fully remote, not like me working from home in the frigid colds, but having the opportunity to work where you want to work, no matter what that location is.
Yeah. Okay. So I would say one of the things that I have found with working with clients is that they want, everyone has a goal, like an ultimate dream life of how they want to use the freedom and flexibility of remote work. And a lot of people do want to either just travel more or become a digital nomad. And the big hurdle, though, is time, managing freedom also. And it's a lot of the clients that I've worked with, they're working 12, 14 hours a day. They're not able to unplug, and they're thinking, well, if I go to Mexico or Bali or, Italy, wherever I want to go, right? And I'm working 12, 14 hours a day, what's the point? Like, there's no point in me going. So, and they just kind of keep doing the same thing, and they never actually get to achieve those lifestyle goals. And so what I do is I help them to get clarity on what is the most important thing, create a structure to your day so that you are working towards only the most important things, and unplugging from work in a way that you feel accomplished. You're very aware of what you accomplished for the day. You're very aware of what is coming for your tomorrow. So there's a lot of just intentionality around time management, staying focused, avoiding distraction. So you're efficient and effective in the few hours that you want to work, so that you have free time. And then with that free time, you can also start working towards your goals of travel and things like that. I mean, if you're working 12, 14 hours a day, you don't even have time to plan to travel. Like, when are you going to leave? When are you going to do that? So that's a really big one. The big struggle is just helping people be effective and efficient with their time and balance work and life. And I know work-life balance and work-life integration, it's such a funny thing. Like, it's like this, it has to be one or the other. There's this this trendy thing going on. It's work-life integration. It's not work-life balance. It can't be balanced because you can't have equal work and equal life, and work is a part of life and all of this. It's both. It's work-life integration, and you can have work and life integrated and not be balanced. And balance does not have to equal, like to be completely equal. It's not 8 hours at work and 8 hours, outside of work and 8 hours sleeping. That's not balance. That's not the yin and yang. Yin and yang is being able to flow freely in and out and feel balanced. So that's a really funny conversation that's been had lately a lot. It's integration and it is balance.
And I think you bring up a good point on several of these things too, that I think there's several buzzwords that are going around, like you mentioned, just remote work or the work-life balance, and those types of things, that even hybrid work, flexible schedules, all of those things have a million different meanings. So it is so important to clarify what you're talking about to really level set that conversation. Otherwise, you and I could go in two totally different directions if we were talking remote work. So I think that's a really important tip too, just to think about if you really do want to do whatever your remote style is, understanding what that is for you and your company and overcoming those specific struggles that might be in that type of remote work style too.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. Well, I want to kind of wrap up here that since we are with Kensington, and I want to talk through just, again, that marriage that could really bring this conversation together is, I know when I work remotely, we have done it before where we've stayed extra days on vacation. So we're not to the point of taking a full-on couple month stint anywhere, but we have tried to figure out how to organize our life in a way that we can bring equipment with us and work when we don't have to be on vacation, and you can still be really productive and get more out of your vacation, which is one of our goals. So that being said, what do you typically bring with you? Not always a stand-up desk, like you said, but what's kind of your bread and butter equipment that you need to work productively as a remote worker?
Yeah, so when you're moving around like this, you want to carry as little as possible with you. So obviously my laptop, I have a laptop stand that I love and has really saved me. I had actually car accident, whiplash, all of that jazz. So it's really helped tremendously cut down on the migraines and the pain. A wireless headset, even though I'm using my wire one right now. Everyone says this cheapy one actually has better quality than the expensive wireless one. So I don't know. But I have a wireless one, external hard drive, on my phone. I have the eSIM with my US number, and then the local SIM, or the SIM that you can take in and out, is a local SIM, so that I can very easily get internet access and connect to a hotspot from this quite a bit when necessary. And also, a really important one is a connector to my laptop that allows me to hardwire into the internet. So a lot of times where you go, the internet might be great, the router might not be good, or just different issues. And so being able to hardwire is really, really great. And I have my, wireless keyboard, wireless mouse, because obviously if I have my laptop up on a stand, like I'm not going to be typing up there like that. So those are the ones that, like, when I'm on the go, those are the things that definitely go with me for sure.
Well, I wish I could have a little checklist in the corner being like, ding, 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 you got all of the good items. But I will say, for myself, my pile for working on the go is right here, that I have my laptop stand, and then Kensington does have a compact keyboard, and then I use their red SureTrack mouse because I can't lose it. Otherwise, I can't tell you how many times I've dropped a mouse underneath the hotel bed or something like that, and you're like, I don't know if I want to stick my hand underneath there or not, kind of thing.
Yeah,
so having that bright mouse, it's really hard to lose it. But that being said, all of it is super compact, like you mentioned. That's certainly important. Mm-hmm. And then having the laptop stand that does get your computer to nice eye level for you is so important. Yeah. I think that honestly, that's probably one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen people try to do when they work remotely, is that they're like, I just need my laptop and I can be successful, which they can be maybe on those little vacation type trips.
Right.
But as soon as you're trying to work a full day, you start feeling it so much in your neck and shoulders. But I'm so happy you said having the keyboard and mouse also, because I can't tell you how many people say, oh yeah, I've got a laptop stand. And then I've literally watched people with their hands in that vertical orientation.
Oh,
and
people, no, people.
I know. Like, no, you just need like half a day of that and you are asking for more issues so quickly. So it's just trading wrist for wrist there. So definitely laptop stand, keyboard, mouse, and then the other components like the headset. And I think it's kind of almost ironic with the hardwiring for the internet that even when I entered into this live stream broadcast today, it's like, you should hardwire in for the best connection, which we're so used to saying wireless, let's, be free and have this freedom. But it's so true that you can get that most power if you can actually hardwire into. So, well, cool. Well, thank you so much, Allie, for joining me today. I really appreciate the little tidbits of advice there. You can definitely connect with us on LinkedIn. And Allie would, I'm sure, love to see you follow her posts. They're quite comical at times. Love the polls that you put out too, that I always am the sucker that reads the whole thing. So I appreciate that. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot Allie or myself a message. And again, happy Wellness Wednesday and Happy New Year.